Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. This is the third of the main Conjuring franchise, seventh or something, I don't actually know, but there's a lot of these in the expanded universe of it with the Annabelles and the Nun and the La Llorona movie, which all count somehow. I've never seen anyone's except for the main franchise, really. I've heard the second Annabelle's good. Sure, why not? But I have seen these, and basically this is the first one not directed by James Wan. It's directed by Michael Chavez, I believe. Even though this is not directed by James Wan, it's made in the very James Wan kind of, he has his stamp of approval on this, almost like he directed the pilot of the Conjuring kind of stuff, of being more kind of like roller coaster ride kind of horror films, which are not the coolest in the world. And studios don't make a lot of them, but this is kind of how you would make a big blockbuster horror film. And The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It falls in line with basically what the other two would do. James Wan, this is his third franchise, I guess, after starting Saw and then doing Insidious and then basically making this after Insidious. And this is kind of more like Insidious. They're kind of just, ooh, we jumped and all screamed in the audience together, which is weird that I watched this on HBO Max. And it's also weird that he made this out of the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Many people felt are obvious grifters, and most of the things they said were made up and stuff like that. I haven't really looked into it. I've watched and read things about it before, but it is interesting that they have become their own franchise in itself, as this franchise originally just started off just like heavily mentioning the Amityville Horror without actually making a remake of the Amityville Horror from their perspective, which it felt like this whole franchise was like begging to do. They don't do that, which is interesting, and they don't even actually, I don't think, mention it as overtly as the other two films. One thing I think about this is it's a little not as good as the first one, but I don't think any of these, like, they're not amazing films. You kind of see them, have a good time with them, and they're gone. I don't get the impression from the filmmakers or anyone involved that they're meant to do anything more than that. They're actually, James Wan is really good at making cheap entertainment that's, fun and ridiculous, and you have a good time and you try not to question it too much. I mean, the guy made Aquaman and he made haunted house movies, so he sort of gets who he is. And this director is very much like doing the El Spielbergo version from what James Wan did, basically. The Simpsons haven't made a joke on James Wan clones yet, so I have no frame of reference, but that's kind of what it feels like. He does feel like he's having a little more fun, this director. He does, certain things like a reference to The Exorcist, and feels like he has like actually something to prove. He was the director of La Llorona. He's put on this big franchise. He feels like he's actually hungry for it, which I feel like James Wan didn't in the second one. But essentially what this film is about is the Warrens are helping do an exorcism on a little boy who has been possessed by a demon. And we open the movie on this. During this exorcism, the boyfriend of the older sister of the kid says, take me instead of him, kind of thing. And then the demon's like, yeah, okay, I mean, if you're offering. And so then leaves the boy, and everyone thinks everyone is fine. But in the commotion, Patrick Wilson's character has a heart attack, so they have to take him to the hospital. And he's the only one who saw this possession thing and all this stuff. And in the meantime, the demon who's possessed this kid, and the kid goes on and stabs someone 22 times and says the devil made him do it. And the Warrens try to have the courts argue that he was taken by demonic possession, which is actually a real story. He didn't actually get away with it, and the film does not deal with that at all. Very cleverly, it looks like they didn't even shoot it. Like, they're just like, let's not get into it. Apparently, like, they did not really discuss it as much as this movie did. Like, the judge was like, no, we're not doing demonic possession today, guys. That's not happening. But in this movie, it's like a big thing, so whatever. Which I believe most of the cases in these films are real cases. I don't know. I've seen them once, so I don't really 100% know. But I do. This is a real case, and the Warrens have to kind of stop him being possessed and like wanting to kill himself, and because of this possession and everything like that, and all the other evil things. These people who are possessing people with these demons they have summoned, and that how they have to stop them from continuing kind of their evilness on people with demon possession. A lot of this is just kind of fun. It's almost like a procedural movie, which I think is why people like it. It does kind of take a different turn because it almost feels like there was a whole separate plot line that we kind of walk in on, which normally is where they do the Amityville stuff. So thank you for that. I didn't need that. Just make your Conjuring Amityville horror movie at this point. I think there's some legal thing. I really don't care. Just like figure it out. But yeah, they're doing a possession. They have like almost like a Simpsons plot where it's like it starts as one thing and then it switches, which is kind of like, yeah, what happens with this movie. So it switches and then the demon goes in the boy and stuff. He stabs someone 22 times, which this film, although it takes place in 1981, does not have a ton of 80s stuff in it, which like thank God for that. That was really nice. I appreciate that actually, except for a Blondie song, which is heavily in the plot, but that's like the only needle drop, and they actually like use it a couple times. It feels like there was actually a reason for it. But most of this is like watching, a good Law and Order SVU episode. It's like that kind of pop sort of entertainment, and that's what the Conjuring movies do. And I think the Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It. It helps this director. I was watching it. It's like it helps that he feels hungry, like he wants to make a name for himself for this, and making like a semi-decent entry in the Conjuring franchise is going to help him do that. I think it is kind of like, hey, you like the Conjuring movies? Here's another one. And you go, oh, cool. And then, it doesn't really stay with you. Maybe a little bit. It was cool seeing John Noble in this. I kind of enjoy him. I think the first one was very unique in itself, but I think the big thing with this for me is, even though I watched this at home with the lights off and I was like a little spookier and stuff, it wasn't as much fun. Like, these are theater movies, and I probably would say if you're going to see it, the option of the theater, I would see it with like a rowdy crowd. But I don't know, can you have a rowdy crowd at this time? This almost feels like it shouldn't come out now, like they're just sort of like pushing it out in a way. This also feels like a franchise that like you could have one of these that like, it didn't make as much and they'll make a fourth one anyway. The charisma between Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson really works. I think they're really good together. It's almost like fun watching them have fun in this universe. It's very much like she's dressed with these frilly shirts. They're very much in like kind of 70s outfits. It's like almost like actually period filmmaking, not like hitting you over the head with it. Like, of course, like in what they're doing and the world they're existing in, it's not the 1980s yet, because it's in 1981. It's very much still the 70s culturally. So it was interesting to see a film actually like accurately depict the time period, rather than just like throwing out a ton of pop culture references to like super seriously show you that it's the 80s. I actually give him credit for that, and it's not something you'd actually really notice. But the horror in this works like a Friday the 13th movie, in the sense that it is a roller coaster ride. It's meant to have fun with an audience, laugh with your friends, giggle, have a few drinks during. That's sort of all it is. And I think these are a well-made kind of franchise, at least the Conjuring ones. They're fine. They do make a reference to Annabelle in a really funny scene where the lawyer doesn't believe all their supernatural stuff. Come over, you can have dinner at our place, and we'll introduce you to Annabelle. And then they references to Annabelle and stuff, but that was like very funny. I think everyone agrees that was funny. It seems like they're having fun with the franchise in a certain regard, but this is a franchise you'd want to have fun with, really. It is also, this is more about Satanists this time. It's not just about demons and ghosts and shit like that. Like there's an actual like big bad that's human this time. I thought that was an interesting way to take the franchise. If you just was like, oh, it's another ghost, I think that makes it stand out. Honestly, I like this more than the second one, which although I think I actually did rewatch the second one, I really didn't like it the second time. I enjoy the first one for what it is. It's like big blockbuster summer horror, and it works really well for that. The second one was like too long. It's like there are certain big set pieces that James Wan wanted to show off, but this like kind of, I think, was a little more fun. It got its limitations, but it got what was so glorious about those limitations in a lot of ways, and what this kind of horror is. And there's not a lot of directors, I think, that can nail it as well and like have that pull with an audience. And as much as James Wan had that, Michael Chavez has that very much in this film. I think like I didn't see this with an audience, but it felt like he would like intrigue me in, I was like, I wanted to keep watching this. It felt like an easier watch for it. It's not the greatest plot in the world. You kind of know what it's doing. It does like the sort of obvious stuff. It doesn't have too many like major twists or anything. When a twist happens, you're like, I guess that makes sense, and stuff like that. But if you're looking for just a decently fun kind of summer horror movie, this is sort of what it is. I don't think the Conjuring films will go down as the greatest horror franchise of all time. Maybe like you'll enjoy watching the first one. If you're into it, maybe you'll watch this one. But honestly, you're kind of, if you know what this is and you're down for this sort of thing, you sort of know what you're going to get, and you'll be pleasantly okay with it. You know, it's maybe better than average, but like, you know, is 60% that much better than 50%? And do you really care? If you're seeing this, I think you're getting what you want from it, and then you're leaving. And I think it's just, you know, kind of what the Conjuring movies are. They come and they go, and then when you hear they're making another one, you go, oh, that'll be neat when I watch that one. And I think maybe the devil made him do it, but really my passivity is the only thing that's kind of keeping my interest in these films, but maybe that's just kind of fine to do for 1 week. So if you have seen The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.